and welcome to a very special episode of Kentucky Brew Review. I'm Special K.
I'm Radar.
Today we're going to be reviewing Ommegang, Game of Thrones, Fire and Blood Red Ale. Radar, would you do the honors of opening it?
I would love to.
It's a pretty sexy bottle, I'm not going to lie.
I love these beers that come with the cork at the top. Ommegang is actually a really well-known beer amongst the
Crap.
beer snobs. It's not even really amongst the craft beer people. It's just, look at it.
This may look gimmicky, but
It is pretty gimmicky, but Ommegang is a fairly well-known brew.
Game of Thrones is a pretty bitchin' show.
It's still pretty gimmicky.
Game of show.
Anyways,
Ooh.
let's have us. Now, unfortunately, since we're not pouring this entire thing into a glass, oh my goodness, I did not expect this to be so incredibly fizzy. I'm going to let that go down a bit while I pour yours. All right, so I can't really remember what I was saying, so I'll just start over again.
A little bit more of an angle there.
Yeah, anyways, this stuff is brewed in New York, I believe it is, and it's of a fairly high alcohol volume. That is going to go over.
On my new table.
I'm sorry. It's already. It's all right. I dripped on your tablecloth already, so I just broke in your new tablecloth. Anyways, it is 6.8 alcohol by volume. That's a really dark red.
Yeah, it's a very dark.
Goodness. And if you look at the bottom of an Ommegang beer, you can't see it on the camera, and for that I apologize. But if you look in the bottom of Ommegang beer, there is a little bit of sediment at the bottom. And I poured this really wrong, and I wasn't thinking about this at the time, but now that I've thought about it, I realize how much of a dumbass I am. So, let's have a sniff of this. We already talked about a little bit the color, but the color is just...
it's almost a brown. Well, if you turn it to the light, it's got a red.
For an Irish red ale, this is ale, right? Yeah, it's red ale. For an Irish style red ale, this is really dark. And the head is kind of brown almost.
Yeah, caramel.
Would you call it? Yeah, okay, caramel. That's a good color. A good name for the color.
The head's definitely sticking around too.
Yeah, well, it is
good lacing on the
a
glasses.
very frothy head. It's a little bit rocky, but
take a whiff. What is that?
It's really heavy. That's what that is. Your hair is going into your head.
My hair is on my head.
No, your hair was going into the head.
Oh. What is that you get off the valve? I get a sweetness.
There's a roastiness to this.
There's a roastiness.
It's a little bit sweet, a little bit roasted.
Is there a little bit of cinnamon do you have to take there? Just a light hint of cinnamon?
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of flavors in that, or scents in this.
There's a lot going on. It's like it's going to be a party in my mouth.
The price tag is still on the bottom of these.
That's fine.
Just wanted you to know.
Dollar Tree, $4. Let's take a sip of this delicious looking.
Let's do that.
Oh wow, that is cinnamon.
You're right. There is some cinnamon in that. We haven't done a beer that's this nice so far.
There's a couple of flavors in there I'm not quite figuring out.
I'm not quite clear on. There's toastiness, there's maltiness,
there's nuttiness,
there's some nuttiness in there.
There's a very light hint of cinnamon in there.
Yeah, that's a really interesting beer.
It's tasty.
What was this? What did this cost, by the way? Ommegang is a little bit more of an expensive beer. If you look, it's in the Michael Jackson Better Beer Guide, which is not the Michael Jackson, the pop singer. It's Michael Jackson, this sort of older gentleman with a beard and mustache, this little salt and peppery hair. But it's almost a standard amongst beer reviewers. And if you haven't read a little bit of the Michael Jackson Better Beer Guide, you might want to try looking into that. You can usually get used copies pretty cheap. But Ommegang is actually in that book. So that makes it's a pretty high-end beer. But what did it cost?
$7.
A bottle for this for $7? If I were a rich man, I'd buy all kinds of this beer.
So, yeah, it's nutty. It's actually a little dry. Get a very, very light note of cinnamon in there.
The cinnamon isn't prevalent. It's not supposed to be.
It's supposed to sit at the bottom, actually. According to the guide on the bottle. It's supposed to not to disturb it.
I usually pour the cinnamon into my glass. If my glass is large enough.
If you like it very
cinnamon.
bitter, then you'd want the cinnamon in the bottom of your glass. This beer's got a nice bitterness too. Not overly powering.
I like these glasses too. You can keep a beer in this glass forever without it getting warm.
What would you give this radar?
I give this beer a very, very solid 8. As far as the bitterness goes, if you're not really into darker or bitter beers,
It's pretty bitter for a red.
it is pretty bitter it's also really dark for a red.
Mm-hmm.
But I will warn you, since it is so expensive, or since it is fairly expensive, that if you're not into bitter or darker beers, you probably don't want to go with this. But since I like a darker beer, I like to sit and savor a darker beer, which I haven't really been doing with this.
This is a savory beer, that's for sure.
I give this a solid 8. What about you?
I'd give this a 7.
7?
Mm-hmm. Like I said, it's not overly bitter. Overly bitter beer. It's like, it's not IPA bitter, but it's got, like I said, it's got a very nice bitterness. It's like a party in your mouth. There's so many different flavors hitting you at once.
There is a lot of flavor in that beer.
It finishes really dry. It's not very sweet. I don't like very sweet beers. Yeah, it's delicious. If I was having a fancy dinner or something, I would probably buy this, and pour it for a few of my friends. This is how it would start the night. This is not the kind of beer you would be drinking straight out of the bottle and partying.
You split this beer from the amount that's in our glasses and from the amount that's left in the bottle. I would say you split this beer between 3 people. So if it was just you, me, and Steel Reserve, or you, me, and Fuzzy, or something like that, we could go with a bottle of this and then follow it up with some Box or something like that. I feel like a Bock would be a good follow-up for this.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways.
Yeah, I'd recommend it. It's a great beer. If you like this review, we'll definitely do some more Ommegang products if we can find them. It's very, very hard in Kentucky to find this.
And if we can afford them, it's very, very hard to afford this on what I make.
I make more than you, but yes, agreed. I don't make much more than you, so...
It's definitely a special occasion beer.
But if you do, like I said, if you do like these, we'll make an extra effort to drink more of these styles of beers. I'm Special K.
I'm Radar.
Okay.
And please like, comment, and subscribe.